President Donald Trump's VP pick, J.D. Vance, absolutely destroyed Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz, over his stolen valor and much more. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about President Donald Trump's VP pick, J.D. Vance, the junior senator from Ohio, absolutely destroying Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. Now, this guy, Tim Walz, before we go any further, is not what he may appear to be to some. Some say he's likable and somebody's papaw and a football coach, all kind of stuff. The reality of this guy is much different and a lot darker. This dude, in my humble opinion, and from what he's done, his track record, which we'll get into in a minute, his track record says he's a full-on communist, full-blown far leftist, beyond anything that you've seen in recent history in high office. Now, before we go any further into it, let's just take a look at some of the evidence, shall we? Take a look at some of it. The main thing being his time in China. Did you know that he was a teacher in China during Tiananmen Square? Yes, he was. Now, let's look at this right here. This caption to this picture. The caption says, "Is Tim Walz a Manchurian candidate? Despite being in China during the Tiananmen Square massacre and even visiting the site, Walz has spent the past 20 years deeply involved with the Chinese Communist Party, visiting China more than 30 times. Okay, and you see what it says right here. FBI probe Tim Walz's close ties to Chinese Communist Party, including annual sanctioned trips to China. Now, why are you going to China so much? Okay, you're bringing students there. You were there in the 80s. You are basically the male Yum Yum, Fang Fang, Eric Swalwell's friend. That's pretty much you. And if you're not, I can't tell. You appear to be very fishy to me. Very fishy, to say the least. Now, here's something else. This is the introduction of Tim Walz to the rally in Philadelphia, which, by the way, was most likely intended for Josh Shapiro to come out and be revealed as the VP pick for Kamala. But because he's Jewish, they kind of had to go to their second choice. But let's take a look at this intro, shall we? Now, I'm going to turn the sound down. You see the bowing. He did that, according to what I was reading. He did this whole I'm Asian adjacent bowing all throughout the actual rally. Let's see it one more time here. Okay. See that right there? Arigato. You know, that's Japanese, but whatever. That's pretty much how they do. They go into a Chinese restaurant. They go anywhere and they do that. Maybe that's what he does when he meets with Xi Jinping or whoever he meets with in China. I don't really know, but it's fishy to say the least. Now, that's not even the bad part. We got to get to a lot more, including J.D. Vance absolutely annihilating this guy, okay, because of one thing that he said about Appalachian people, Midwest people, small town people. I was personally offended because I come from Appalachia originally. I live in Appalachia right now, East Tennessee. That's Appalachia. Yes, it is. Same mountains as West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Southern Ohio, etc. But let's hear what he says to figure out what's going on. Then we're going to hear from J.D. Vance, who completely destroys him.
Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy.
The applause line was way too long right here. I don't know what that's all about. Like, was what he said that insightful? Was it that?
If he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there?
Now, there's a lot there because some things that he said, you're like, what is he talking about? Getting off the couch. Why is that funny? What's going on? Now, and then they go Kamala cackling in the background. They're both goofy. Tim Walz and Kamala, goofy. Dumb and Dumber. Thing one, thing two. Freaking frat. These people are nuts. Look at their faces. But what he was talking about at the end, as far as the whole getting off the couch thing, there was a rumor, which was false, completely debunked from a person who posted a fake page of Hillbilly Elegy. That's J.D. Vance's book that Tim Walz referred to. Now, on this fake page, they said J.D. Vance had done something inappropriate with a couch. And I know we got young people watching, so I won't go no further than that. But that's what he's referring to. That's pretty gross, pretty disgusting, and it's fake. Okay, a straight up lie. Propaganda. Maybe he learned that when he was in China over the past 30 years. Maybe pick that skill up over there, okay? Just maybe. But anyway, that's what he was referring to. And also, as far as this whole thing about, oh, well, if you're from Middle America, really Appalachia, ABL, Cincinnati, Middletown, that's not Appalachia. Please stop. Southern Ohio, same thing. Y'all know I'm from West Virginia originally. I got family in Columbus, Ohio, which is further up. It's the same thing, really. The same people that live in both places, although it's geographically different. But anyway, why can't we have high aspirations as Appalachian people? Why is that a bad thing? Why can't we come from poverty, a lack of really high education, and then go to a place where we're able to get higher education, we can become successful? That's the American dream. It doesn't matter how you're born, where you're from in this country, or even if you come from somewhere else and you come to this country, as long as you're here, it doesn't matter if it's Nebraska, where you're from, Tim Walz, or Ohio, or West Virginia, where I was born. It doesn't matter. You can ascend to high heights and become very successful. Your birthplace does not dictate your future in this country. And that's facts. That's facts. That's a good thing. Okay, why would you want to trash on that? Why would you want to just dump on the American dream? I don't understand. But let's let my man J.D. Vance really just tear into him and tell him everything that I was thinking. Check it out.
Sir.
Last night, Governor Walz suggested that because of your Ivy League education and your Silicon backing your political career, that you yourself are part of the elite. What are your first impressions of them trying to frame you this way to the American public?
Well, look, I came from a family where nobody in my family had ever gone to law school. I grew up in a poor family. The fact that Tim Walz wants to turn it into a bad thing, that I actually worked myself through college, through law school, and made something myself, to me, that's the American dream. And if Tim Walz wants to insult it, I think that's frankly pretty bizarre. Now, look, what really bothers me about Tim Walz, it's not even the positions that he's taken, though certainly he has been a far left radical. You know what really bothers me about Tim Walz as a Marine who served his country in uniform? When the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with.
Let's pause right here. What he's saying is correct. Now, J.D. Vance went to Iraq. He signed up for the military, went to Iraq. He was a Marine. Shout out to the Marines, hoorah, all that good stuff. He did what he was supposed to do. Now, on the other hand, Tim Walz, who was in the Army as an uncommissioned officer in 2005, they were supposed to get shipped out to Iraq. Well, they did get shipped out, but Tim Walz decided to go ahead and retire rather than going to Iraq. And then he'll say stories about, oh, we had this in war and I went to war. Did you? See, when you talking like that, that's called stolen valor. And a lot of my military guys don't like that at all. That is a very serious thing that you're doing. And I wouldn't really play around with that because you're going to offend quite a few people in this country.
I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go. I also think it's dishonest. Something, again, if you guys ever get an opportunity to ask Tim Walz or Kamala Harris some questions, he made this interesting comment that the Kamala Harris campaign put out there, and I bet they're regretting they put it out there now, because he said that and he was making a point about gun control. He said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? what was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
Facts. Very, very, very well said, JD Vance. I like that. I like that. From one Appalachian to another, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. But as I close, I want to say this. Shout out to JD Vance, really just saying what needed to be said about this, because come on, like, you abandon your unit when it's supposed to go, when they get shipped out, you just say, you know what, I'm out, I'm gonna retire, I don't want to go. And then you keep telling stories about it. Oh, I was in war, I did this. Really? Did you? Okay. You want to come off as this, kind of hokey, likable, paw football coach, but really you're a Chinese communist. You don't have the United States' best interests at heart. You're pushing puberty blockers or hormone blockers. You let your state burn during the 2020 George Floyd riots. You ain't calling the National Guard for 3 days. You are a whole big crazy mess, a far left radical, and a person who was the second pick, the consolation prize, because the Democrats got an anti-Semitism problem. Hey, it's crazy, but it is what it is, and I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your thoughts on what Tim Walz and JD Vance said? Who do you align with more? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. JD Vance said everything perfectly in about 2 minutes. He said it perfectly, because this guy, Tim Walz, that whole side over there is a whole big crazy mess. And the latest clown they done put up to the front is just as big of a mess, if not more, than everybody else we've seen so far. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.